Harold Eugene Weed, better known as Buddy Weed, was a prominent jazz pianist born on January 6, 1918 in Ossining, New York to Maud and Nelson Weed. The story in his family goes that his mother played the piano all night the day before he was born. According to Buddy, "I had no choice about a career in music," as if this one endearing story about his mother had destined Buddy to greatness. Buddy Weed was first faced with a piano at the age of 6, studying the instrument with his sister. At 16, he would begin his formal music training under Herman Wasserman, the same teacher who instructed George Gershwin. Graduating high school, he got together a 5-man combo, and together they got their first live performance experience on the SS Santa Rosa, a cruise band in exchange for a summer vacation. His time on the ship stopping at ports in South America such as Rio de Janeiro and Montevideo undoubtedly had an effect on his music going forward, taking inspiration in countless pieces of his work. After his well-received cruise ship performances, he became employed by several famous band leaders of the time, such as Jack Teagarden, followed by short gigs from Charlie Spivak and Teddy Powell. However, these stints would be brief, as the conductor of the most famous big band orchestra at the time, Paul Whiteman, had heard one of Buddy's home recordings he made at a modest 19 years of age. Highly impressed with his playing, Paul immediately signed Buddy as the piano player for his orchestra. This signing would lead Buddy to the most impactful milestone of his musical career. Buddy recalls being auditioned by Ira Gershwin in his estate. Ira asked Buddy to perform several songs. Starting with George's Prelude in F, Ira was impressed by the young talent and gave the green light to Paul for Buddy to perform at George's 5th memorial concert. Buddy performed his now famous rendition of George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue. This performance alone made Buddy stand out from the crowd and garnered him lots of notoriety.
Frederick Groffet's arrangement of Rhapsody in Blue needs no introduction. You've undoubtedly heard Paul Whiteman play it many times since Gershwin dedicated it to Paul 18 years ago. So I would like to say a word about the youngest member of the Whiteman Orchestra, Harold Weed, or Buddy as we call him, who is achieving a much cherished desire in this evening's concert. George Gershwin has always been Buddy's idol. Buddy set out early in his musical career to be as nearly like the famous composer as possible, even arranging to study under Herman Wasserman, who was one of Gershwin's teachers. Consequently, I can say in all sincerity, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Harold Buddy Weed with Paul Whiteman's orchestra in George Gershwin's immortal Rhapsody in Blue.
This performance led to Buddy's recording debut, playing piano for the Paul Whiteman Orchestra on the very first Capitol record ever released, Capitol Records 101, playing piano on I Found a New Baby. After a powerful start to his commercial career, it would be put on pause as Buddy was drafted into the Special Services Division of the Army. The Special Services Division was responsible for producing V-discs, otherwise known as Victory discs. Almost every famous musician at the time cut a record for the label. These discs were produced and shipped out to soldiers abroad to hear the popular music from back home. It was during this time that Buddy Weed would release one of his most famous jazz singles, Whoopsie-Doodle. This song resonated not only with the troops, but also with people listening back home. When the war ended in 1945, Buddy Weed would quickly find employment as the director of music at the ABC radio network. It was during this time that he would introduce the first jazz trio to America. It was with this trio, consisting of Tommy Kaye on guitar and Felix Joby on bass, that he would begin his extremely successful run producing simple jazz tunes for MGM Records. Re-releasing his V-disc classics like Whoopsie-Doodle and What's Good Enough for My Baby, he would achieve more popularity, broadening his audience's desire to hear his music. Buddy's newfound celebrity status allowed him to host his own radio show on the ABC radio network, known as The Buddy Weed Show. Jimmy Blaine was a vocalist and announcer, while Buddy led his trio in popular songs of the time. In the early 50s, Buddy was still regarded as a top musician in the jazz scene. However, he would branch out and make various appearances on television.
And a fine group back here. Quartet. And next to me here is my good friend, Randy Hall, on the tin whistle.
According to the book Jazz Anecdotes, the second time around, when television came in, the station image makers prescribed hairpieces to the baldest members of the orchestra, and they suggested to conductor pianist Buddy Weed that he visit a cosmetic surgeon to improve his visual appeal. Buddy underwent a reshaping of his nose, chin, and ears, and when the healing process was complete, he finished off his new look with a visit to a hairstylist. One of the most famous surviving video recordings of Buddy Weed is his appearance on a television show called Penthouse Party. The show aired in the 50s, and Buddy was a regular.
And that brings us down to the whittle-waisted wonder of the piano, Buddy Weed.
Hi.
And his portable Philharmonic. Buddy, you're looking a bit peaked this evening. What's the matter, too much radioactivity?
No, Betty, it's that great Dane dog I just bought. You know, I gotta put on some weight.
I don't understand.
He's nearsighted.
He is?
Yeah. Keeps taking me out in the backyard and burying me.
I knew it was going to happen. I absolutely knew it. Somebody at last took a musician up on it when he said, dig me later.
Oh, no.
Nothing, Mr. Bones?
Really nothing.
Well, why don't you play something appropriate?
I will. You gotta dig, 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 dig for your dinner. Nothing's what you get for free. You gotta dig, 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 dig for your dinner. Never was a money tree. And furthermore, my friends, I must repeat, nobody's living down on Easy Street. And if you wanna owe for groceries, you're gonna get an awful lot of no-sirrees. You gotta dig, 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 dig for $1. Tain't as simple as you think. You can't purloin a sirloin, or the butcher will put you in the clink. Now you can't be a lazy bird. You gotta get off of your twig, so you can afford your room and your board. And it's nice to have the price of a cig. Say you've got to pay that fiddler man if you wanna do a jig. You gotta be as busy as a bee. If you wanna be Mr. B.I.G., and you got to be that B.I.G. You gotta dig, 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 dig for $1. Dig, 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 dig. I said dig.
Very well done, Buddy. Very well done.
Buddy had a widely successful music career that continued up into the 1970s. However, there were very apparent signs that Buddy was somewhat unhappy with this lifestyle. In a 1947 blindfold interview for Downbeat magazine, he is on record saying that he hasn't bought a single jazz record since way before the war. Most of my listening is classical. There's very little good jazz on the air, and I'm very interested in classical music. Stravinsky, Hindemith, Raphael's Daphnis, and Chloe affects me as deeply as anything I can think of. Maybe you wonder how I can reconcile being a jazz pianist with listening to the classics. Well, I do hear jazz sometimes. But anyway, I notice a trend today among dance musicians is that they're being strongly influenced by Stravinsky and Hindemith. So apparently others have been doing the same kind of listening. Once you've absorbed a certain technique and knowledge in jazz, there's no need to listen constantly to it. Though of course, if you don't listen at all and don't know what's going on, you do lose track of trends. But I so seldom run across anything good in jazz today, it's depressing. While on vacation in 1970, Buddy became enamored with the city of Phoenix, Arizona, and decided to make it his home. Inspired by the beauty around him, he wrote what many would consider to be his most incredible composition, Pinewood Suite. Unshackled from the corporate strangle of producing catchy pop tunes of the day, Buddy could now produce and perform whatever music he wanted to play. He would form a new trio in Phoenix and introduce a new vocalist. Margot Reed. Margot Reed was a Phoenix legend who fit in perfectly with the trio, performing alongside them. It was while he was in Phoenix that he would frequently play at the Pinewood Country Club, performing several seasons for the Pinewood USA Summer Festival. Performing with unmitigated success, his concerts would be recorded and produced into one final album, In Concert at Pinewood. Containing many of his own compositions, this album is Buddy's personal masterpiece. While Buddy would be diagnosed with Alzheimer's sometime in the 1980s, he never lost his ability to play music with technical prowess. Buddy Weed had a truly invaluable career that has left an imprint on all music today. As Margot Reed put it, Buddy's music was the kind of music that people couldn't help but want to hear.